Classic. And semifinal number 2 will pit the Hofstra Pride out of the Colonial Athletic Association against the Clemson Tigers from the ACC. And the winner of this ball game advances to Sunday's championship game that can be seen 9:30 on ESPN2, and the Temple Owls await the winner here between the Tigers and the Pride. And welcome everybody to Charleston, South Carolina. Doug Sherman along with Corey Alexander. So glad you could be here tonight to see, well, a Pride team that perhaps is the little bit of the surprise to make it to the semifinal round. But if Hofstra can come out and throw the first punch tonight against Clemson, you got to figure they've got a good shot.
And it may be a surprise to everyone else, but Joe Mihalik believes in his team, and this Pride has a lot of pride because they know that they can come out and compete with anyone because of their ability to shoot the three and play with this high-octane offense.
Well, Coach Mihalik has made a change in his starting lineup tonight for good reason. Eli Pemberton coming off a brilliant performance in their first-round win, and so he is part of a two-headed monster on the perimeter for this club.
And it starts with Justin Wright Foreman, and his ability to be able to create shots on his own doesn't necessarily need a screen, doesn't need a pass, but it's always helpful when you have another guy on the other side as Eli Pemberton, who is just as lethal. 27 points for him last night, a career high, and it opens up the middle for a guy like Rock Gustis to be able to operate.
Clemson and Hofstra will be squaring off in just a couple of minutes. Hofstra shot 36% in their first-round win over Dayton. Clemson, meanwhile, knocked down 10 triples to take out Ohio. Which team will prevail and advance to face Temple on Sunday for the championship? We'll take a break, and when we come back, the opening tip, we will find out between Hofstra and Clemson.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by Gildan. Love your dad, but don't wear his underwear. Gildan, every thread counts. And Dr. Scholl's.
Back in Charleston, South Carolina, we're just a few blocks from that scene right there. Great Eats on King Street. We are here at TD Arena on the campus of the College of Charleston for our second semifinal between Clemson and Hofstra as part of Feast Week presented by Lowe's. Clemson's led by Brad Brownell, 8th-year head coach, and he's got his team off to a 3-0 start to the year. They will be supremely tested here tonight.
They really will be. And Brad Brownell's forte has been defense, but last year this Clemson team took a step forward offensively, a step backwards defensively. He's looking for his team now to be able to get it done on both ends of the floor.
The aforementioned Joe Mihalik, meanwhile, in year number 5 as head coach at Hofstra, he had a terrific 15-year run before that at Niagara University. And he has this team playing well to start the year. In the Colonial, Hofstra is picked to finish 4th behind, actually, Charleston, which calls this building home, and then Towson number 2, Elon number 3. This is Hofstra's first of 3 trips from Long Island, New York, down here to Charleston. They'll come down for the regular season meeting with the Cougars, and then the conference tournament will be back in this building come March.
And Hofstra's very comfortable playing here. As you mentioned, they get opportunity to do it at least once every regular season. So they've made themselves comfortable in this building last night. They want to do it again against the home state Clemson Tigers.
So we are just about set for basketball. Rokas Gustis, the senior from Lithuania, number 11 in white, will have his hands full with Elijah Thomas, the 6'9 junior from Dallas, jumping center for Clemson. And we are underway in our second semifinal here in Charleston. As mentioned, Eli Pemberton gets the start. And there is the block by Thomas to deny the shot by Justin Wright Foreman.
And that's an added addition for Thomas, being able to protect the rim that way in a beautiful feed. Dante Grantham just unable to finish it at the rim.
And that's about all that Grantham has missed in this early season, shooting 75% from the floor coming in tonight.
Oh, he's slumping. Came in shooting 80.
Pemberton, no. Thomas goes down in a heap. Marquise Reed trying to get by Wormley. Hofstra causing him some trouble. Last to touch was Joel Angus, the grad transfer for Hofstra, who spent last year at Southeast Missouri State.
We talked in the open about how Clemson was traditionally a very good defensive team, but their offense has really picked up. Well, Coach Mihalik's team has been a very good offensive team, and they've struggled on the defensive end of the floor, but we've seen a great defensive intensity out of them in the first game, and really in the first 2 possessions, they've been locked in defensively as well.
This is Gabe DeVoe, one of the 2 seniors on the Clemson roster. Skip pass to the corner, Shelton Mitchell and the redshirt junior out of Oak Hill Academy.
And I believe Shelton is going to be the difference here tonight, and it will be about whether Kenny Wormley and Deshaun Bowie can match what Shelton does for Clemson, because he had a tremendous game yesterday, and he's growing in his role as the point guard for the Tigers.
Thomas with another steal, and the numbers find Grantham for the slam. 5-0 Clemson.
And a beautiful feed by Shelton Mitchell getting out. He got himself in a little trouble by jumping, but at the same time recognizing where his teammates were, bailing him out for the easy assist.
Wormley kicks to the corner. And the baseline jumper goes for Angus, the Pride, on the board. And I imagine if you're Hofstra, you can exhale now. Clemson off to a quick start.
I don't believe Hofstra is ever going to get upset about anybody getting off to a quick start, because they know they're always within striking distance. As Sheldon Mitchell knocks down another jumper. And I talked yesterday about how much improved he is shooting the basketball compared to where he was coming out of high school. And give a lot of credit to Steve Smith and the assistant coaches and his Clemson staff for working with him in the year he was sitting out.
Grantham from deep.
Something's going on. Grantham gotten off to 1 for 3 from the field, 33%. That's just subpar for him. You talk about a young man who came in shooting 80% in this tournament, shooting 75 coming into today. It's almost a surprise to see Dante Grantham miss a shot now.
So now he's down to what, 70%? You're saying he should go to the bench?
He's slumping. We got to get him out of the game. Only 70%.
Now, last night, he scored 20 points on 6 of 9 shooting. He was 6 for 6 from the line in beating Ohio. And that is what Hofstra's going to have to deal with, the length and athleticism, inside especially of Clemson.
We saw one early from Elijah Thomas, and this time it's actually Gabe DeVoe coming from the backside, although Grantham was contesting at the rim as well.
Foul on Pemberton, a sophomore from Middletown, Connecticut. That's the 3rd turnover already in less than 3 minutes for the Pride. Mitchell cut off by Pemberton, 15 to shoot.
And now Hofstra in the zone defense. They're going to have to identify where this guy is on the floor.
Oh, he found the range again.
He found it again. I mean, when you have a guy like Dante Grantham, a 6'8" forward who has the ability to shoot the ball the way he does, playing a zone against him is going to be difficult, especially when you've got Shelton Mitchell knocking down shots at the clip he is from the outside.
Wormley no, Grantham the rebound. He's going to dribble up himself. Look at that bounce pass to Reed in transition. Reed, though, misfires. Ball plucked away by Wright Foreman. Hofstra down by 8 early. Justin Wright Foreman a little long. And the ball goes to the Tigers.
And for Hofstra, when you're playing a zone defense, it's often hard to identify where the shooters are. And this time, a miscommunication at the top allows Dante Grantham enough time to be able to find the right spot in the corner. And the way he's shooting the ball, you got to know where he is at all times.
Yeah, he is now 7 of 13 on his 3-point shots so far tonight. You see he played in the backcourt in high school as a point guard at Hargrave Military Academy. He grew up in Martinsburg, West Virginia. Eli Pemberton with his first 3 points.
Eli Pemberton continues his hot shooting here in Charleston. Came off the bench yesterday for 27 points, and just like that, he's back as a starter for Coach Mahalik.
And one thing Pemberton did so well in the win last night and getting his big performance was get himself to the free throw line.
Nice move by Marquise Reed. Avoiding the Hofstra defender, stepping around for the easy layup.
Pemberton has it poked away. Gusti's denied by Thomas. We got a whistle and a foul. And that'll take us to our first media timeout.
Eli Pemberton made himself at home last night. We'll have to take a page out of the book of Eli when we return.
Charleston, South Carolina is truly one of the most scenic cities along the entire eastern seaboard. The Ravenel Bridge, one of the newer scenes, and there's so much history as you walk through this beautiful southern town, not far from the Georgia state line. And we are pleased to be back here again with ESPN for the Gildan Charleston Classic at TD Arena on the campus of the College of Charleston. Clemson off to the early lead over Hofstra, 12-5. And as my partner Corey mentioned on the way to break, the book of Eli actually factors into tonight's game.
It really does. When you think about there's an Eli on both sides of the court tonight. Eli Thomas, 17 points, 15 rebounds in his quarterfinal performance, and not to be outdone by Eli Pemberton with 27 points, who was all over the place coming off the bench for the Hofstra Pride. So we have to say the book of Eli is in full effect here in Charleston.
And that for Pemberton, a new career high, his 27 points. And as I mentioned, he got to the free throw line a lot last night, 10 of 12. First 3 points for Justin Wright Foreman, the junior from Queens, for 3.
One thing for certain, Brad Brownell told his team, it doesn't matter where Justin Wright Foreman is on the court. You have to guard him at least 10 feet beyond the three-point line, because he will let it fly, and he is unconscious. 22 shots last night to get 19 points, and it does not faze him at all if he misses a shot. He will come back and shoot it again on the next possession.
And this is a guy who just 2 years ago averaged 1.6 points per game. Marquise Reed with the nice mid-range jumper. 14-8 Tigers. Here goes Kenny Wormley to the bucket. And the former Siena Saint gets the roll. Foul on the shot. Wormley will have a chance for 3.
When you mentioned where you have to be guarding Justin Wright Foreman, as you can see, he was nowhere near the college three-point line and able to knock it down. But a great play by Kenny Wormley as well, getting to the rim. Scoring going to his left, where he's a left-hander. Strong finish at the rim. And of Justin Wright Foreman's favorite book, Success is a Choice. Do you know the author of that book?
Indeed, I do.
Do you only know that because our producers told us beforehand?
Indeed, that's the case.
Well, the author would be Rick Pitino. For those of you out there listening that did not know.
Did you know?
I did once our producers told us.
Clemson with a basketball in their new orange uniforms with a purple trim. And the foul against Kenny Wormley. Non-shooting foul, second team foul against Hofstra.
And Wormley got in foul trouble early in the first half in their game against Dayton yesterday, and really sat out the majority of the first half after picking up 2 in the first 4 minutes. So he's going to have to be careful. And, of course, playing in the zone, he should be able to stay away from foul trouble.
Shelton Mitchell, no. Gusti's with a rare missed opportunity to grab a rebound.
Normally shorthanded because, of course, he's very greedy when it comes to his rebounds. He doesn't want to let any of those slip away.
Although that was a defensive rebound opportunity, and he made it very clear 2 days ago to us that the offensive rebound is much more important to him.
This is true. The defensive rebounds don't concern him.
For a man averaging in this young season 11.7 boards per game, he had a down game yesterday with only 10. Grantham gets the roll. 7 quick points for the 6'8 senior. Angus thought about the backdoor cut. Instead, he drove to the bucket. And it appeared that Mark Donnell got a piece of that shot.
And those are the fouls that Goosey's is going to have to stay away from.
Well, there are Temple Owls in the building. Those are the guys who await the winner of this one in the championship game on Sunday night.
Temple looking very relaxed. Of course, they've done their work. They have a day off tomorrow, an opportunity to be able to see the sights in Charleston.
And that man right there on the right with his hand up against his face, Josh Brown, back and healthy this year. What a difference maker for Fran Dunphy's club.
And speaking of difference maker, Quentin Rose. He was a major difference maker today and really has been the entire time they've been in Charleston.
They've got a couple of real stars in the making on that Temple roster. Shot clock under 10 and a traveling violation called as Shelton Mitchell went tiptoeing along the baseline. Into the game for the first time for Hofstra, their 6'9" senior backup center, Hunter Sabetti. He's got the basketball now. Missed opportunity off the offensive rebound by Matija Radovic. Cross-court pass finds Mitchell wide open, around and out, and it's Wormley with the rebound. Wormley couldn't quite get it up on the rim.
And Wormley's going to have to be in attack mode. I'm not sure if that was a great shot, but as he picks up a second foul. But he's going to have to stay in attack mode to make sure he releases a lot of the pressure on those two wings, Justin Wright Foreman and Eli Pemberton.
Well, the Hofstra coaching staff readily acknowledges the fact that on this roster, they only have two guys who play above the rim. That's not the case for Clemson.
Not the case at all. And Clemson not allowing Hofstra to play above the rim either. Already 4 blocks early in the game for the Clemson Tigers as they hold an 8-2 advantage of points in the paint. But the reason being, Hofstra just can't get a shot off in the paint because between Eli Thomas, Gabe DeVoe, Dante Grantham, Clemson is pretty much covering up the rim against the Hofstra Pride.
Well, you know the big man in the middle for Hofstra, as well as anybody in the building, Rokas Gustiz, played at Oak Hill Academy. With his limited jumping ability and relatively limited length against this Clemson team, how is he going to be effective against the Tigers?
Well, he's going to be effective by, one, trying to get offensive rebounds and gaining extra possessions for his team. We talked about how much he loves those, but more importantly, being able to find his teammates. He made a number of great passes last night to find his teammates around the three-point arc for easy looks off those offensive rebounds, because you can see with that 8-2 advantage for Clemson in the paint, that's a battle they're going to win. They dominated Ohio last night, and they'd have a chance to dominate as well here tonight.
Gustiz out of the ball game right now. Clemson just keeps firing away off the bench. It's A.J. Oliver. His second made 3 of his young college career.
And you can remember after the game yesterday, A.J. Oliver coming over to me and saying, "You see me locking up just like my dad," as we see Sabetti. No, Sabetti does have the ability to finish above the rim. He's one of those two guys that Coach Mahalik was talking about. But as A.J. Oliver talked about defending like his dad, I said, yeah, well, you might need to make a shot like your dad, too, because he had a couple bad misses, but known as a shooter, and another opportunity on the wing. And I will let that one go and not comment on that one anymore.
Well, his father was your teammate, not that I need to tell you that, for the audience, at the University of Virginia. And so you've known A.J. since, I presume, he was in diapers, right?
Pretty much, since he was in diapers. Great young man and a welcome addition to this Clemson team. But Brad Brownell has made it clear he needs someone, whether it's with A.J. Oliver, Scott Spencer, Trapp, someone has to be able to come off the bench and score some points for this Clemson team.
And he does a nice job to secure that rebound as well. Now, A.J. Oliver actually got to Clemson in the spring semester of last year and redshirted. How does that benefit a young man like him?
Well, he's put on probably about 10 to 15 pounds of muscle. So one thing that allowed him to get ready for the physical nature of college basketball. But more importantly, it allowed him to adapt to this team and become a part of this team, get to know his teammates. So now as he comes in and has the chance to get minutes, these guys know what he does well, and they trust him on the court.
Could he have not put that weight on if he had stayed in high school?
It's tough to do it in high school. When you think about the difference in the level of the strength and conditioning program at a place like a Clemson compared to having to do it in high school, it's a major difference.
There he is getting another rebound on this end. And he was the last to touch. Oliver very active coming off the bench here in the first half.
I do love his energy and his effort, but Brad Brownell trying to get his attention right now, basically saying, calm down, young fella. We don't need that shot, as Dante Grantham actually gives him a little bit of a love tap and a smile as well.
This is DeJour Bowie at the point. He has started Hofstra's first 3 games of the year, but coming off the bench tonight. Foul on the drive against Oliver. Fresh off their big win of Notre Dame, number 3 Miami returns home to Hard Rock Stadium to take on the Virginia Cavaliers. And of course, the sights are set on the college football playoff. Saturday, noon Eastern on ABC, also streaming live on the ESPN app. Long three-pointer for Justin Wright Foreman.
And defensive lapse there. One thing that you can't do is shortcut screens when you're playing against Justin Wright Foreman. You have to trail him the entire time and force him off of that three-point line because you can't give him the opportunity to get open looks.
Scott Spencer is coming to the game for the first time for Clemson. Here's Pemberton forcing his way into the lane and drawing the foul. Foul on Marquise Reed, his first in the fourth against a Clemson team. Picked 13th in this year's ACC preseason poll, but you think 13 is way too low for Brad Brownell's club.
I agree. I believe that they will definitely be within the top 10, and I'm thinking probably more so the top 8, which will get them a bid into the NCAA tournament.
So how many ACC teams at this point, mid-late November, do you think legitimately are going to wind up in the field of 68?
I'll be honest with you. Initially, I think 10 is the number that everyone wants to see. But because of what's happening right now in the ACC, when you look at what's going on with Pittsburgh and Wake Forest really slumping out of the boxes, that's going to lower the RPI of some of the wins in the ACC. So right now, I'm thinking it's going to be 8 teams that get in from the ACC.
DeVoe, no. Quick hands and quick feet by Shelton Mitchell. DeVoe will try again, this time inside the three-point line. And then a foul on the rebound against Thomas. Second foul on Elijah Thomas, who was so good in the win over Ohio last night. 17 points, 15 rebounds.
And he was able to do that because he was on the court and able to stay out of foul trouble. And now when you look at it with 8.5 minutes remaining in this first half, he's probably going to sit the majority of the remainder of this half. And so, therefore, it takes away from his production. That was one of his areas of concern coming into the season because last year he was unable to stay out of foul trouble. Did a great job yesterday, but is riddled with that foul trouble again in the first half here tonight.
Yeah, Corey, he sits down having played 6 minutes, no shots, 1 rebound, 2 fouls. Pemberton spins to the bucket and lays it in. A lot easier to do that without Thomas on the floor.
Much easier, but still a tough move by Pemberton, and one where I felt like he was contacted, was looking for a foul, but give him credit for sticking with it and using his strength to finish at the rim.
And the 9-0 run gives Hofstra the lead, 20-19. Clemson takes it right back on the three-point shot by Mitchell.
Shelton Mitchell, I mentioned earlier, he could be the difference maker in this game. I think that Clemson has an advantage at the point guard position because of his experience and what he's able to do.
Bowie on the pick and roll, and Rock lays it in.
And if Bowie and Kenny Wormley can both match Mitchell's production, if they can do it as a unit with the two of them combined, Hofstra has a great chance of walking out of here and having a chance to play in the championship game.
DeVoe. That's 2 in a row for the Tigers.
Well, Gabe DeVoe is the guy that you definitely have to recognize where he is at all times, playing in the zone. Gabe DeVoe got off to a great start last year, and then when Shelton Mitchell came back and he was relegated to the bench, as Avery Holmes and Mitchell were starters, he fell off a bit after that.
DeVoe, easy 2, and he'll have a chance for 3.
No falling off for Gabe DeVoe here today. He's come out with tremendous energy here in this first half. And one of the things we've seen from Clemson early in the season, They do a great job turning turnovers into points. Shelton Mitchell the feed to Gabe DeVoe as the Tigers hold the 5-point lead.
Back at Charleston, South Carolina in our second semifinal of the Gildan-Charleston Classic. Hofstra Pride trailing Clemson by 5. Hofstra has itself 2 point guards sharing the load so far this season. Kenny Wormley and DeJour Bowie with that terrific dime on the pick and roll to Rokas Gustis. And Bowie and Wormley, the point guards, have a tremendous asset on the Hofstra bench in the person of former Pride and longtime NBA point guard Speedy Claxton.
And Speedy, of course, does a great job of working with these young men and trying to really help them navigate the way that the point guard position needs to be played, not only in college basketball, but more importantly for his head coach and Joe Mihalik. These two guys, Speedy came in and was on the staff in Mihalik's first year with coming to Hofstra, so there, and been an assistant coach with him for the 4 years remaining after that. So these two guys have a great relationship. I spent a lot of time talking to both of them in the summer when it comes to recruiting and seeing them out on the circuits, of course, during AAU time. And Speedy has a great grip as to what Coach Mihalik wants from his point guard. So if these two guys tune in and listen, I believe that they'll both be just fine for the Hofstra Pride.
Gabe DeVoe completes the three-point play. And Speedy Claxton was a point guard who you like, that type of thing. He's a scoring point guard. Went for over 2,000 points in his college career.
Well, I like anybody that scored 2,000 points. Let's start with that. But, you know, my type of guy, point guard, the guy with the ball in his hands, but, of course, more importantly, can go get a bucket when his team needs for him to.
Now, he's got an NBA championship ring with the Spurs, was a first-round draft pick of the 76ers, and a tremendous asset for Joe Mihalik on his staff. Hofstra with the basketball. The Pride has been hot, having hit 5 of its last 6. Now 6 of 7 on the rainbow jumper from Wright Foreman.
And Wright Foreman has a great job at creating his own shot. He doesn't need screens. His ability to elevate into his shot allows him to shoot over much bigger defenders. And you see he's got a very soft shooting touch.
They only listed at 6'1". Mitchell. Gustis with the rebound.
And in complete contrast of styles, Clemson has shot now 14 three-pointers to where Hofstra has only shot 5. And I know Brad Brownell gives his team freedom, but I'm not sure 14 three-pointers is what he wanted to see coming out early parts of this game.
Yeah, I got to think that's going to balance out tonight. 5 to shoot. Angus bulls his way into the lane, and DeVoe is called for the blocking foul. Well, they've been playing this one since 1929. Saturday night, 8 o'clock. That's Eastern time, 5 Pacific out at the Coliseum. Number 11 USC hosting UCLA. The Trojans have won the last 2 meetings, looking to keep their college football playoff hopes alive. That's USC, UCLA Saturday night on ABC.
That was a heat check by Wright Foreman. Hofstra has made their last 5 shots. And Wright Foreman's been in the middle of all of that, so this time he's checking to see if he had the hot hand. I think we had a fan just shoot the basketball. Is that what just happened over there?
I don't know.
The ball goes into the stand. One of the fans got up and was shot the back, and he shot an air ball, by the way. So if you're going to shoot it, at least draw some iron.
Ball was kicked on the inbound. Now, one of the finer points of Clemson in this early season, through 3 games, they have 5 players, all their starters averaging double figures, and as a team scoring 84 points per game, shooting better than 50% from the floor, 36% from the three-point line.
And Amir Sims gets in and he fires a 3, so now 15 3-point field goal attempt, 5 for 15. They made some, but at the end of the day, I'm not sure that's what Brad Brownell wants to see. I think he needs a little more balanced attack, trying to get the ball inside the paint.
Clemson has missed 8 of its last 11 shots overall from the floor. Tough pass to Handle. Goes out of bounds into the Clemson bench.
An opportunity to see. I believe we got a fan. He does. Gets up, squares up to 3, and draws nothing. Pulled up from 24 and shot at 18.
And the young man still has a big smile on his face. There comes the camera at him.
Hey, he's enjoying the Charleston Classic. No question about that. Smile, buddy. You shot an air ball on national TV. Don't hold up the 3 goggles. Maybe he was talking about the 0 for no points that he got on that.
Probably.
I like the spirit. Young man having a great time coming out to the Gildan Charleston Classic.
Swish for Shelton Mitchell. The Vanderbilt transfer. Spent a year with the Commodores before coming to Clemson, South Carolina. A couple of free throws. He's got double figures. And Clemson goes back to its bench. Donnell comes in. Grantham, who had a quick start to the ball game, goes to the bench with Clemson up 6. Custis spins to the baseline, lays it in.
Nice move by Rock. Taking advantage of the fact that Eli Thomas is sitting out with 2 fouls, knowing there's no shot blocker in the game.
DeVoe misfires badly. Another 3-point try off the mark for Clemson.
I know and I was getting a shot at Brad Brownell, and I know that's something that he is going to address with his team at halftime. He threw his hands up there as if to ask, what are we doing? Rock on the baseline knows exactly what he's doing here. Recognizes no Eli Thomas, no one to block my shot, and a beautiful spin move to finish at the basket.
And a freshman coming up on him who could not handle the big senior, who heads to the bench. That man is on pace to potentially become the all-time rebounding king in the history of college basketball. David Robinson, the great Navy midshipman, currently holds that record, as he has since the late 80s, but if Rock can continue averaging 12-plus rebounds per game, he will put his name in the record books.
But he will not hold the actual Hofstra record, believe it or not.
Non-Division I record? Is that what it is?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Bill Thieben, over 1,800 rebounds. He had a 43-rebound game, and I may be saying his name wrong, but I was so intrigued by seeing his numbers, I had to mention them. 43 rebounds in one game.
Wow. You know,
and over 1,800 through his career.
The game was played so differently then, I can't even imagine. The numbers that Will Chamberlain and Bill Russell were allowed to pull up, it was as though nobody else went for the rebounds. The big guy in the middle.
They probably didn't, because they knew they weren't going to get it.
Eli Pemberton.
Pemberton has no problem mixing it up, going in for rebounds. And Eli Pemberton has not settled and just tried to be a shooter. He's played the game at every different level here, and because of his energy and effort, the Hofstra Pride are within 2 with 3:15 remaining.
Yeah, 9 points, 3 rebounds for Eli Pemberton, the sophomore out of Xavier High School in Connecticut. All rookie on the CAA team, getting it done here tonight for the Pride as they try to hang with the Clemson Tigers back to within 2.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by Lowe's. Hurry in today for huge savings on all things winter.
Hofstra using a 17-11 run to pull back within 2 of Clemson in this semifinal here in Charleston, South Carolina. A little knitting, a little basketball, not a bad combination.
I remember my granny used to do that. I wasn't always happy about the sweaters that she would knit.
You appreciated it, though.
I did.
I appreciate this football game coming up. Number 3, Miami, taking on Virginia. Of course, college football playoff is in sight for the Hurricanes. Can they keep that dream alive? Saturday, noon Eastern on ESPN. Donald, a Michigan transfer, travels, and so Hofstra gets the ball back with a chance to retake the lead.
But you can see coming out of the timeout a concerted effort by Brad Brownell to get the ball inside and in the paint where they feel they have an advantage, but yet it's been Hofstra with the advantage, the 14-10 advantage of points in the paint after Clemson got off to such a great start.
Reed off the takeaway Going to head to the free throw line after picking up the foul against Sabetti, his second.
That's the one thing that Hofstra has not done well here in this first half. Now their 7th turnover, and Clemson has had the advantage there with the 10-3 advantage in points off of turnovers, and Reed doing a great job getting his hand on the basketball deflection, trying to turn into points on the other end. But at the beginning of this game, Clemson started off 7 for 12. They were working the ball in the paint. And since then, only making 4 of their last 13 shots. And a lot of it has to do because they've shot so many three-pointers here in this first half. You know, Brad Brownell can't be happy about that.
Reed, the transfer from Robert Morris University, with a couple of free throws. He's pretty much automatic, 91% a year ago at the free throw line. Foul in the front court against Mitchell.
I believe that's going to be the second on Mitchell. And Eli Thomas already on the bench with 2. That's a tough loss for Clemson with the remaining 2:45, because one of the things that we had an opportunity to speak about in the Clemson's game yesterday, who is their backup point guard? And if something goes down with Shelton Mitchell, he's in foul trouble, unable to play, who does Brad Brownell trust with the ball in their hand?
Jalen Ray misfires on the front end. Freshman from Hampton, Virginia. Clemson with the basketball, leading by 4. Grantham give it back on the pick and pop. Easy for me to say. Good action on the offensive glass. And the putback by the 6'3" Marquise Reed.
And a great play by Reed. But what that shows, honestly, is back to my point. Marquise Reed does a great job offensive rebounding, but as a point guard, you can't be the guy in the paint, because if it doesn't come to you, now you're going to give Hofstra an easy opportunity on the other end.
Gustis looking very comfortable on that low block.
And I'm wondering why he doesn't do that more often. We see him often passive when he catches the ball in the paint. That time doing a great job being aggressive and making a beautiful move to finish for the second time, the second nice post move we've seen from him here in the first half.
Plenty of space for Reed with the defender going below the screen, and he's going to bury that shot more often than not.
That's a mistake. You do not go under a screen on a guy like Marquise Reed, who shoots the ball as well as he does.
Here come the Tigers. Reed with the basketball. Didn't feel the defender coming with him. Able to find, though, his teammate who's got the hot hand. Grantham. He's got 10. And just like that, the lead has ballooned to 10. 40-30 Clemson with a big push here late in the half. So when Clemson's Marquise Reed has the basketball on the perimeter, you can't go below the screen, right?
Well, and not just Marquise Reed. Anyone that's capable of knocking down the three. This is a cardinal sin in the game of basketball, even against a 2-3 zone. When you have a screen, and it has to be called out, but you see Justin Wright Foreman makes a concerted effort to go under the screen, giving Marquise Reed that room to just raise up and knock down the three.
And Reed has scored 7 quick points in a 10-2 Clemson run. Bowie. The extra pass from Rock for the easy layup by Angus.
And the Clemson bench wanted the charge there. When Gustis dropped it off and knocked over Amir Sims, they wanted an offensive foul in that possession.
Under a minute remaining in the half. Grantham with the basketball. Reed looks to the post, now lobs to Grantham on the back door.
Marquise Reed may be answering the question as to who the backup point guard is. It may be him. Clemson's offense has actually operated very well since Shelton Mitchell's gone out.
Donnell goes down and gets the call. Second foul on Gustis.
And the Hofstra defense just fell asleep against a 2-3 zone. Not sure how you can lose the 6'8" Grantham along the baseline. He shot the ball well all year, but he hasn't had many that easy. Brad Brownell going to get Shelton Mitchell back on the court with the 2 fouls for the remaining 30 seconds, at least while they're on offense, to try to come away with the basket here and extend their lead going into halftime.
Largely, Clemson's done this without Eli Thomas, who has been on the bench for the better part of this first half with a couple of fouls. Mitchell down the lane, kick it back to Donnell. 4 on the shot clock, got to put it up. Mitchell does. Reed in there on the offensive glass. He comes away with it. Hofstra, can it get off the shot? Bowie with the heave. Well, in the first half of runs, the last run gives Clemson a double-figure lead at the break.
And the run was led by Marquise Reed. Dante Graham doing a great job when Eli Thomas and Shelton Mitchell are riddled with foul trouble.
Coming up at halftime, highlights of Duke, Kentucky, Louisville, Kansas. We'll also preview the PK 80. 42-32. Studio will have your halftime update after the break. Charleston Classic in Charleston, South Carolina. It is nighttime over the Ravenel Bridge, and Clemson enjoys a You're watching ESPN's Feast Week, presented by Lowe's. This is the Gildan Charleston Classic from TD Arena in Charleston, South Carolina. And in our Gildan game track, we've got a little alliteration for you. A tenacious tiger and some Pemberton pride. And
both these young men have had very good first halves. And more importantly, they've been very efficient. When you look at Marquise Reed, what he's been able to do in minutes. And then the Pemberton pride, I'll call him in the book of Eli. Only 4 for 6 from the field, but he probably needs to find more touches.
And here's what's on the line. The Temple Owls have already punched their ticket into the championship game Sunday night. They await the winner of Clemson Hofstra, and it appears the Owls have flown the building. They are back to their hotel to watch the second half.
Have you ever seen an owl fly?
I have.
You have seen that?
I swear I have.
Okay.
We had the discussion in the last time out. Do owls fly? Of course they do.
Now, there are a number of birds that do not fly. Just because you're a bird does not mean you're flying. Larry Bird does not count.
Eli Thomas with the pass. And Clemson certainly would love to get something more out of the young man who was so good in their win last night. Thomas became the first Clemson player to achieve at least 15 points and 15 rebounds since Trevor Booker did it here on the exact same date in the exact same gym 9 years ago. But the first half tonight was so much different for Eli Thomas because of foul trouble. He's still looking for his first point.
And that was a question mark coming into the season for Eli Thomas. Last year, he got in a lot of foul trouble, was not able to play extended minutes. Did a great job last night. But for Brad Brownell, back to that, the getting in trouble. And it wasn't as though he had committed silly fouls. So therefore, you can't be too discouraged with it. But he has to understand it's more important for him to be on the court than on the bench.
Justin Wright Foreman. Hofstra could use him to heat up.
That is very good defense and a great shot. Justin Wright Foreman does a tremendous job of creating his own shot and creating space and the ability to be able to shoot over bigger defenders.
Gustis picks up his third personal foul. And the good news for Hofstra is that they've got a very good backup in Sabetti, but the reality is they're better off with both of them being able to play. But now, just 58 seconds into the second half, Rock is headed to the bench.
And Rock headed to the bench with only 2 rebounds, and that's one of the main reasons why Hofstra was out-rebounded in the first half. Clemson 6 offensive rebounds to only 3 for Hofstra, and that's not something that Coach Mihalik is used to seeing with his team because he knows that he has the one guy who normally gets more offensive rebounds than the opposing team.
At the same time, Hofstra doesn't face this level of physicality and competition every night. Drive and dish by Reed. Rantham couldn't beat the shot clock.
And that's one where they can actually check because he made that shot. I believe that if they have a conversation about it, they can go check that one on the monitor and see if he got that shot out of his hands.
Well, it was Jerry Pollard who made the call on the floor. Tom Eads, the lead official, immediately went to him and said exactly what you were saying, Corey. And let's go check it out to make sure.
Yeah, you can only check it if the shot goes in. He seemed to be convinced that it was no good, but as you look at the ball coming out of the hands, you wait to see 0.
Ooh.
That's as close as you can get.
It's closer than I thought. Ooh.
1-0.
boy.
That one's going to be hard to determine. Honestly, as of right now, I can't really tell as if his hand is off the ball when you hit 0 on the clock. But it is extremely close. And good thing they're going over and checking it out. I don't think the officials can be right or wrong, whichever way they decide on this one.
Right, but since the call on the floor was that it was no good, they've got to be certain that it was good to overturn it. Looked like Tom Eads just turned and said no, and indeed it is a shot clock violation.
Yeah, and again, you know, when the call was made that the shot was no good, you don't see enough evidence there to overturn it because it is exactly so close.
With the basketball, Justin Wright Foreman, second team All-CAA, gets it back, step back. Big offensive rebound for Sabetti. He goes to work to the left hand.
Another offensive rebound and another offensive rebound.
Ball comes out to Marquise Reed. He pulls up from the foul line. And Sabetti didn't get away with the foul. The official closest to the contact didn't call it, but the trail official, Tom Eads, had a good angle like we did from midcourt.
And that's one of the areas where, you know, of course, for the average fan watching, you have to understand what actually is one official's call and not another's. And right there are different areas of the floor that you have to watch. So under the basket, they may not actually have been his call, but a great job by Tom Eads seeing that as a trail official coming in and making the right call.
And Corey, that is Sabetti's third personal foul as well. Hofstra getting itself into a tough spot early in the second half. Trying to find Thomas inside to go after the man with 3 fouls who just has to back away on the drive, and it leads to an easy putback.
And Gabe DeVoe following the play.
Sabetti blocked by Thomas. Angus.
Well, give Hofstra credit. Without Goosey's, they've done an even better job actually attacking the offensive glass, and that time picking up some second chance points off of the Elijah Thomas block shot. But this zone defense, they're going to have to account for rebounders as well. Against the zone, you don't necessarily have one person that you have to box out. Sabetti got away, thought he got away with one, but the whistle came in late. When the layup didn't go in, I believe there was a decision that the reason the layup did not go in was because of the contact by Sabetti. I believe, honestly, if Reed had made that layup, the officials would have allowed that to go, but that's going to be the 4th foul on Sabetti. And now Hofstra's going to get even smaller with Angus having to play the 5 and Radovich coming in to play the 4.
The only 2 guys in the playing group for Hofstra are taller than 6'7", and they are now both on the bench with foul trouble. Sabetti with 4, Gustis with 3, and so the 5 position will be manned by the 6'7" Matija Radovich. Kenny Wormley. Back to Radovich. This is Eli Pemberton. He fires away. And an over the back foul given up by Joel Angus, who is 6'6", 240 pounds, and known not to be a real high riser. That's his first personal foul. It's a young man coming off of hip surgery. Played only 1 game last year in his final season at Southeast Missouri State, and he's a very effective player, but he is floor bound for the most part.
Floor bound, that's a nice way to put it.
I'm just quoting the assistant coaches.
Yeah, I think that's a very eloquent way to say it. Floor bound.
Now Joe Mihalik looking for an explanation of what? Have you got an idea or a guess of what the conversation is on the other side of the court?
Honestly, I don't know. I'm not sure what the officials are checking on this one. But they're at the monitor. And apparently this nothing that crucial because they didn't take much time over there at all.
Well, they got the foul on the wrong guy, apparently, so they have now gotten it to Joel Angus III. Clemson up 9. Mitchell down the lane, no. Thomas keeps it alive to himself, gathers, goes up again, and he'll have a chance for 3. First 2 of the night for the junior from Dallas.
That's what this after stellar afternoon yesterday. Eli Thomas finally gets on the board. His first points with a strong finish through the contact. And he was excited about it. Letting the world know that's an and one.
As well he should.
But it's only an and one if you make the free throw. Now it's an and one.
On the hoop scoop by Eli Thomas, you see first player from Texas to sign with Clemson. Gets the and one. Of course, he didn't begin his college career at Clemson. He picked him after first picking Texas A&M and then transferring from the SEC to the ACC. Wright Foreman, 4-3. That's 13 points for the junior out of High School of Construction in Queens, New York.
And he is unconscious. He doesn't matter whether he's made his last 5 or missed his last 5. He's going to shoot the next one with just as much confidence as he did before. And great at making individual plays.
Mitchell from downtown. Angus clears the rebound, and here come the Pride. Now, Justin Wright Foreman gives a lot of credit to the guys who came before him as Pemberton hits the 3. Hofstra 2 years ago won the regular season championship in the Colonial, led by a guy named Wanye Green. He was Conference Player of the Year, and minutes were tough to come by for Wright Foreman. He waited his turn, kept working on his game, and he's got the basketball in his hands, averaging 20 points per game as a junior.
And that's really what college basketball is about, seeing the examples of the older players in front of you that help you become a better player, and then being able to go out and allow it to manifest for yourself on the court. If he would have hit that one. And I know he's capable of it, but that's a tough shot.
DeVoe and Mitchell in the backcourt with Reed. Grantham and Thomas inside. It's Thomas playing high-low to Grantham for the layup.
A beautiful feed from Elijah Thomas as he goes back looking at his right hand, and he's a lefty, so he's surprised that his right hand allowed him to drop that dime.
Reed jumps the passing lane, and he's got himself another steal. Into the lane. Grantham spotting from the corner, and that's 3 more.
But that's actually going to be a foul underneath on Thomas. The bucket will count, but that's going to be foul number 3 on Elijah Thomas.
Third foul on Thomas. We'll take a break, and when we come back, the coaching family that is Joe Mihalik.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by Lowe's. Hurry in today for huge savings on all things winter.
The Hofstra Pride are led by head coach Joe Mihalik, who actually got his coaching start under Hall of Famer Morgan Wooten back at DeMatha Catholic. He said of Coach Wooten, quote, "He taught me salesmanship." And among Coach Mihalik's pupils back at DeMatha, both on the court and in the classroom, Adrian Branch and Derek Wittenberg.
Well, I tell you what, those are 2 characters in themselves right there. If you're talking about AB and Witt, there's definitely personality between those 2 gentlemen.
Well, there's very definitely personality in Joe Mihalik.
And by the way, both of them could play. No question about that. Great basketball players.
AB at Maryland in the NBA, and Witt, of course, had the assist that won NC State the national championship.
That was not an assist. It was a shot.
If you ask Witt, it was an assist.
That's why I talked about his character. My man Witt, great guy, but it was a shot.
Tough pass to handle along the baseline. Angus up and over Donnell.
And great job by Angus. And you are always talking about his lack of explosiveness as a leaper, but yet a great job using his body to be able to finish over a bigger defender.
I'm not casting aspersions. I'm just quoting the coaches. So when he sees this tape later,
I just want to make sure he knows that you talking about the fact that he can't jump over a telephone. Not me.
It was Doug Sherman who said it, not Corey Alexander. I'll own up to it. Donnell on the reverse.
And a great feed by Dante Grantham in the paint. Interior passing is always going to be important, playing against the zone. And having guys like Grantham and Eli Thomas has shown his ability to pass the ball is always going to help. Clemson could see a lot of zone this season, forcing him to shoot the basketball from outside.
Armbar on the low post. Foul called against Grantham. Well, Joe Mihalik learned from people like Paul Westhead and Speedy Morris, and he has passed on his coaching acumen to his children. Joe Jr. is an assistant at Penn. His next son, Matt, is an assistant at Hartford, and then Tony Mihalik is an assistant track and field coach and cross-country coach at Iona College, and Iona is a national power in cross-country. So some of the lessons learned have been passed on to the next generation.
And you were disappointed that Coach Mihalik had no Philly players on his roster. You were shocked by that.
Shocked. 20 years as a head coach, 15 at Niagara, 5 at Hofstra. I truly think this is the first time the LaSalle graduate does not have a Philly guy on a roster.
But I gave you the great reason why.
Well, because now that you're in Hempstead, Long Island, you got to get New Yorkers, right?
No, that's not it.
What is it?
Because his son's at the University of Pennsylvania. He's taking them all.
Well, that gets the Clemson bench to its feet.
Pemberton asked, did he call the foul? He didn't get to see the remainder of that play. He ended up on his back. Eli Pemberton taking it to the rim. And Donnell coming up with a huge block. But Pemberton feeling it as though there was contact there. He thought he would get 2 free throws.
Gustis with another nice knifing move to the bucket. Couldn't get it to fall, and he'll head to the free throw line. What was Rock Gustis like back at Oak Hill?
He was an enforcer. Okay. He was also 20 pounds heavier. You know, and actually when Shelton Mitchell found out that Hofstra was in their bracket in this tournament, he actually called back to Oak Hill and told, you know, the coaches, he said, you know, we might have to play against Rock. He said, he's going to take me out. I know he's going to do it. And Shelton has so much, he has so much experience from being taken out in practice, having to play against Rock. But that's one of the reasons why Rock is such a great offensive rebounder, playing with Shelton and B.J. Stith from Old Dominion. And, of course, Cody and Caleb Martin, who initially went to NC State and now in Nevada. Rock didn't get many touches, so he had to go get it off the glass.
Well, let's see here if number 4 in orange does what you just said he isn't going to do, is drive the basket with his old high school teammate. He lets his other guys go in there. And Donnell with the assist and the layup by Sims.
I think Shelton might go now. He knows Rock's in foul trouble. He may ease up on him. Those 2 guys before the game got together, shared a laugh.
One and done for Hofstra, 11:30 remaining. So you're saying that even though Gustis' given name, as Mitchell hits the jump shot, timeout Hofstra, Gustis' given name is Rokas, he would have been given the nickname Rock regardless.
Absolutely.
They're on the short end, though, down 20. Turn back the clock to 2008, the Charleston Classic, and what do you know? It was Temple versus Clemson. Fran Dunphy, then the coach for the Owls, as now, and his team jumped out to an 18-10 lead. Ryan Brooks led Temple with 19 points. He was good from downtown, but so was Terrence Oglesby. He led the way with 16 points for the Tigers, one after another here in this building. And then some guy named Devin Booker, double-double, tournament MVP, doing his thing inside. And Clemson would go on to beat Temple, celebrate the 2008 Charleston Classic Championship, raise the trophy. And you know what? We could have that same matchup Tomorrow night, you think Oglesby, who is on the radio team for Clemson, still can knock down a shot?
Now, that I know he can do. He can still shoot the basketball, no question about it. He doesn't have the hair that he had, of course, in 2008, but I'm sure he has the jumper still.
Although for those of us of a certain age, I don't know how many of us have as much hair as we did 10 years ago.
Oh, I still got all my hair.
You're hanging.
Just a different color. My favorite color, gray.
Well, they're the games back in 2008 for Clemson. Coincidence that they faced Hofstra then and now, beat TCU, and then took out Temple in the championship game. We could have a rematch on Sunday. Timeout. We'll take a break with the Tigers cruising up 20. Back in Charleston, South Carolina, and on that Clemson bench, a very familiar face, if he can turn around and show us his face, to the Tigers fans.
My man T-Mac, and everybody hears the name T-Mac, they're thinking about the 6'8" one, not the 5'8" one, but this one right here. Terrell McIntyre led the ACC in scoring in 1998-99, and let me tell you, he was a pit bull. You're talking about a big-time basketball player, had a successful career playing overseas, and now back as director of player development for the Tigers. And good for Brad Brownell to have some, players in the program now that have put on a uniform at Clemson and had success. I think it helps out a lot in connecting with his current players.
And I'm actually always surprised when new coaches don't tap into that when possible.
Well, oftentimes, though, it has a lot to do with the fact that if a guy's coach is getting fired, they may not be as welcome to coming back and being part of a new generation. And oftentimes maybe new coaches aren't either. But Brad Brownell has always been open to getting his guys back in. And it's good to see that he has a guy like Terrell McIntyre and, of course, Oglesby as well, who's considered a student manager and is coming back to get his degree because he left actually after 2 years of playing at Clemson. So having both of those guys back, he didn't coach either one of them, but it's good to have that, the Clemson bloodline back on the staff.
Well, the Clemson Tigers shooting like Mr. McIntyre did, 7 of their last 9. They are riding a 16-2 run over the last 5 minutes. Just past the midpoint of the second half. DeVoe pulls up. And an over-the-back foul going to be called against Grantham. Well, Saturday night, 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 Pacific on ABC. It is USC versus UCLA. Darnold, Rosen won't want to miss it as USC tries to keep its hopes alive for the college football playoff. That'll be Saturday night, 5 Pacific on ABC.
As we talk about former players on the staff, there's a pretty good group here. We've already talked about Speedy Claxton and Terrell McIntyre. Aaron McKee is on the staff at Temple. And then you've got Brian Stith at Old Dominion. You got some pretty good former players in the gym, helping these young players out. Some guys that's got a lot of experience, not only in the NBA, but great college basketball players.
Gabe DeVoe right to the bucket, and he gets the roll. Had to shake his head a little bit afterward, like, man, that should have just gone right in.
Nah, it wouldn't have been as fun. That's a tidy bowl. Take a couple trips around the rim before it drops. Great pass.
And how about the slam by the 6'1" Justin Wright Foreman?
Now, I was talking to Corey Robinson, Justin Wright Foreman's high school coach, and one of the things he told me, he talked about his shooting ability, but he also said he can jump out of the gym. And Justin Wright Foreman just giving us a little bit of a glimpse of what he's able to do around the rim on that possession.
Reed picks up his dribble. 3 to shoot. Donnell recognizes. Well, if Hofstra's going to make a push, they're going to have to do it here. Down 22, 8:20 remaining. Wormley's quick shot is off the mark. And the foul called against Radovich.
There haven't been many highlights for the Hofstra Pride here tonight, but here's one. Gusti's with the beautiful back door. It's set up nicely, and Justin Wright Foreman showing off his bounce.
Now, we asked Coach Mihalik a couple of days ago, when you signed Justin Wright Foreman, did you think you were getting a first-team All-CAA type of guy? As we take another look at the foul call. It goes against Clemson. And Coach Mihalik was very honest about the fact that he said, I didn't know he was a, quote, first-team guy when we recruited him. We thought he was good. We thought he had great potential, but they had no idea that his ceiling was as high as it's become.
Well, and, you recruit so many different guys with potential. But a lot of it is, what you decide to do. And we went back to, we talked about the hoop school for Justin Wright Foreman, where he read Rick Pitino's book talking about success is a choice. Those are choices that you have to make. Are you going to get up the extra shots in the gym? Are you going to stay away from the distractions that could keep you off of the court? And so many young players make the decisions to go the wrong direction in college. But the guys who are really committed to being the best basketball players, they make decisions that make them the best basketball players, and everything focuses around that.
And Justin gives a lot of the credit for his focus on doing the right thing to his mom, Janice, who is truly his shining light. His face lights up when he talks about his mom, who made the trip down from New York City here this week in South Carolina. Well, my partner here, Corey, has gotten himself in a little bit of hot water in Clemson, South Carolina. We'll tell you why when we come back. With Corey Alexander, I'm Doug Sherman. Here in Charleston, South Carolina, it's our second semifinal of the Gildan-Charleston Classic. Good eats here along King Street. Clemson with the big lead over Hofstra. And on our broadcast yesterday, my partner made a couple of comments about the women's basketball coach at Clemson. You say, why would you be talking about the women's coach at Clemson while we're doing a men's Clemson game? Well, Audra Smith, the woman who you were talking about, is the mom to one of the Clemson Tigers, and I want you to take it from here.
Well, I made a comment regarding Audra is like my big sister. But she's not always nice, so I said she's like a mean big sister. Now, so what I did not recognize at the time was that Audra had a game yesterday, a big game against another one of my big sisters by the name of Dawn Staley. You may have heard of, won a national championship at South Carolina.
Yeah.
But a number of Clemson fans apparently went to Audra and said, hey, you're the mean big sister. And she's saying, what? And they tell her what I said on the radio. This morning, I walk into the fitness center at the hotel, and who's sitting there other than my very good friend, big brother, Anthony Oliver. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I walk in, he starts laughing and says, oh, you're in trouble. And I said, what? He says, I'm going to read you the text where it says, you tell Corey that when he gets on national TV today, he better tell everyone that I'm not the mean big sister. Okay. So I asked Clemson fans, does that sound like something a nice big sister would say?
Ooh,
or does that sound like something a mean big sister would say?
So you're doubling down.
I'm just saying, I love her. Truly do love her like a big sister. Wow. But she's not always nice, and I believe her text message that she sent, that she didn't send to me. She sent to her husband to tell me. I think it kind of goes along the lines of what I said yesterday. I do love her.
So you have yet to hear directly from Audra.
I'm scared of her.
Which that scares me for you. There's AJ.
There's AJ there. And that's my guy who got in and knocked down a three earlier today. Hasn't seen as many minutes here in the second half. I told AJ what I said about her yesterday, and he said the same thing. Yeah, she's going to get you when she sees you. That's my girl.
Well, I wouldn't want to be you the next time you go to Little John.
No. I'm safe there. She's not going to get me in public.
Okay.
Yeah, she's not going to get me in public.
Hey, how about the efficiency we've seen the last two nights out of Dante Grantham?
And Dante Grantham has been special all year long, and it's really he's showing off the type of potential, and it's now coming into play as to what the Clemson fans have expected from him all season, well, his entire career, because you know he has the skill to be able to do it. Of course, he starts with the outside touch. Over 143 pointers now in his career at Clemson. But he has the ability to finish at the rim. He can put it on the floor. But when you have a guy that is shooting at a clip, as Grantham is, and more importantly, he's not forcing shots. in this second game where now he's at 19 points, had 20 last night for the Tigers. But look at the percentage, 8 for 11 from the field. He came to Charleston shooting 80%. His career high is 22 points and may end up there tonight.
Well, he's done that a couple of times back in November 2015 against UTSA and against Rutgers. I mean, Dante is 6'8", 215. He can obviously shoot the basketball. He's got good size. He can handle the basketball, and he can pass. So what do you think the pro scouts are thinking of him right now?
Well, when you think about where the game has gone, especially when you talk about the NBA, it's long athletes that can shoot. And so Grantham would project out to be probably a small forward.
Here he goes.
In the NBA. But you're talking, as you watch him handle the basketball, he was a guy that we told about on our Hoop Scoop earlier. He played the point guard position in high school. And so now when you think about a guy who has ball skills and the ability to shoot, that's the type of guy that you want on the wing. You look at the guys like a Trevor Ariza. You look at guys who have been great on the wing in long careers because they can stand and make corner threes and be able to play very solid defense as well as, play off of good players.
DeVoe has to beat the buzzer. So Grantham kind of epitomizes that phrase we keep hearing more and more in basketball, positionless basketball, right?
I don't like that term, but yes.
The spirit of it, though, is that...
It does. I mean, and again, like I say, I do believe that there are still positions. And again, positions do different things, but, I'm not a fan of that terminology, but I do understand what people are saying when they use it.
So what don't you like about it?
The fact that, when you take away saying that, because one thing that's for certain, point guard is a position. Mm-hmm. It's always going to be a position. Centers do more now, but they're still centers. There's no question about it. There's the guy that anchors the back of your defense, and normally the guy that you're expecting to be able to rebound. They just happen to shoot threes now. Marc Gasol shoots threes. Joel Embiid, the future of the center position, but he still anchors the defense. He's the guy back there blocking shots. He's coming up with big rebounds. They just shoot threes now, and I think that's where people get caught up in the fact that they're not positions, but I believe they really still are.
Clemson calls timeout with a 70-54 lead. Coming up on SportsCenter at 1 a.m. Eastern, 10 Pacific on ESPN. Have the Cavaliers turned things around with LeBron James leading the way? Chauncey Billups will weigh in on what has changed or not in Cleveland. Plus, are the Lakers better off with lottery pick Lonzo Ball coming off the bench? And with one more race to go, how is Junior feeling about retirement from the track now? SportsCenter with Linda Cohn and Stan Verrett on ESPN and the ESPN app. We're here in Charleston, South Carolina, and about 100 miles to the north and east up the coast. The Puerto Rico tip-off at Myrtle Beach has come down to Boise State and Iowa State. So the Cyclones come to South Carolina kind of limping, and they wind up getting a nice win over Appalachian State, a nice 2-point win earlier tonight over Tulsa, and they've got an opportunity to really lay some groundwork for a nice turnaround in their season. And a very young Iowa State team, so all these games are important to Steve Prohm's group, and for them to build some confidence, as you mentioned, got off to a shaky start, but an opportunity to go and play for a championship this early in the season could pay dividends for them moving well into Big 12 play. While the official checks something over on the monitor, they're checking to see if on a foul. And apparently they also changed a Wright Foreman 2-point jumper to a 3-point jumper. So just doing some housekeeping as Gabe DeVoe shoots free throws. I want to get back to our positionless basketball phrase that you're not fond of. And, John Calipari is one who has been talking about it constantly in Lexington with his group of versatile players. But the reality is he needs a point guard, either Quade Green or Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, to be that guy or some combination of the two, and they can't be positionless in that sense.
And John Calipari uses that, and again, I understand what he's doing, but at the same time, when you're recruiting, 3 of the top 20 college and high school basketball players to come in to your school, and they're saying, what position am I going to play? That's why he has to say we're positionless, because you take Kevin Knox and you have Jerry Vanderbilt and P.J. Tucker. I'm sorry, and P.J. Paul Washington Jr. And when you think about those guys, they're very similar. So he has to let them know you're positionless. Don't worry about playing a position. Just come in ready to play. And he does a great job with it. Knox and P.J. Washington both playing at the same time, Vanderbilt out. But yet, if he says, okay, you're going to be the 3, you're going to be the 4, that means that all those guys can't come there together. So I definitely understand that 2 through 4, it makes sense. But there is a center and there is a point guard.
Timeout with 3:56 remaining. Clemson getting close to punching its ticket to the championship game on Sunday night.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by Gildan. Love your dad, but don't wear his underwear. Gildan, every thread counts.
On a breezy evening in Charleston, South Carolina. Welcome back, everybody, to our second semifinal. It's part of Feast Week presented by Lowe's. Clemson up big on Hofstra. Clemson's only turned the basketball over 5 times tonight. They've been efficient. They've shot the basketball pretty well. They've done the job on the boards, and they've had good balance. And once again, you know, they came into this game, Corey, with all 5 of their starters averaging double figures, and they've got 4, including this man at the free throw line in doubles. Grantham with 19. Can't add to that total. The only starter not in double figures is Eli Thomas because of foul trouble in the first half.
He's only taken 3 shots in this game, but Clemson was 17 assists. So only 5 turnovers, and you credit Shelton Mitchell with great point guard play, but how about Marquise Reed? 6 assists, 0 turnovers on the evening.
They have released, as you see, the field for next year's Gildan Charleston Classic. Bama certainly will be one of the headliners, Purdue and Virginia Tech, and oh, by the way, Wichita State, which will be good. You know they will be. It's amazing what they've been able to sustain for the Shockers.
I tell you, Virginia Tech off to a great start this year as well. Mikael Alexander putting up huge numbers. Of course, I love him because of his name.
Of course.
They're putting up huge numbers for the Hokies. They got a big win over Washington today.
And for any of the alumni or fans of those 8 schools we just showed, I'm telling you, if you want to plan ahead, you've got 11 and a half months to get yourself squared away, to get your plane tickets to come here. I highly recommend it. This is my 3rd year in a row of being lucky enough to come to Charleston for this event, and you will love it. There's no question.
Well, I echo your sentiments in my first year here, and I'm definitely enjoying my time.
The one stat that jumped off of me for Marquise Reed, along with the 16.6 assists and no turnovers, were 11 rebounds as well for him. He very quietly has been part of a very potent Clemson attack here this evening. .220 remaining. That's a 2-point shot for Justin Wright Foreman. He now has 21 points.
He is great off the bounce. You see his ability to elevate and shoot over top of larger defenders, and he's able to create so much space on his shot.
Pemberton nearly came up with the steal. And Justin Wright Foreman had a really big sophomore year, but really blossomed in conference play. I mean, he averaged last year against CAA opponents over 23 points per game.
And while we're here on the CAA floor, the College of Charleston, I honestly believe that this Hofstra team has a strong chance to be able to compete for the CAA title. And I know College of Charleston is good. There are a number of schools that are going to be right there at the top of the list. But you know, with what Hofstra has going on with Wright Foreman and with Eli Pemberton, of course, Gusti's in the middle, I definitely believe they have a chance to compete for a title.
Illegal screen against Kenny Wormley. Sent DeVoe to the deck. Yeah, Charleston certainly seems to be the prohibitive favorite. They defend the heck out of the basketball. But as you see, Towson and Elon are also ahead of Hofstra in that preseason poll.
Mm-hmm. And the way Elon shoots the basketball every year, they're always going to be in the mix.
And with Charleston once again hosting the CAA tournament. That further helps their cause, although it's not in this building. It's going to be up in North Charleston, but still they will have the decided home court advantage.
I found out today that North Charleston was a different city. Didn't really realize that before. I used to come down when I was in the D-League, played against the North Charleston Low Gators. Okay. So when people asked me, had I been to Charleston before, and I told them, I said, well, I came down and played against the Low Gators. They said, no. North Charleston, that's a completely different city. Charleston is different than North Charleston.
How about that?
Yeah, so you learn something new every day. I
learned today that this is the Low Country. That's what they call this part of the state of South Carolina. So that's why I guess they're the Low Gators.
So I guess. Now I've learned 2 things today.
How about that? Actually, you've learned 3 things: that you shouldn't say bad things about Audra Smith.
I didn't say anything bad about her.
You called her the mean one.
That's not bad. It's a term of endearment. She's my big sister.
So I stand corrected.
She's not always nice.
You really only learned 2 things then today. Well, the evening's work is done for Dante Grantham. 9 of 12 shooting. He matches his career high with 22 points, 3 of 5 from beyond the arc. He hit a free throw, grabbed 4 rebounds, 3 assists. A real complete performance for the senior out of Martinsburg, West Virginia. Amir Sims, freshman from Palmyra, Virginia. Back out to the sophomore from Suffolk, Virginia, Scott Spencer.
And Spencer and Amir Sims were both high school teammates for Kay Lemke at the Blue Ridge School. So those 2 guys hooking up on a beautiful play there.
Yeah, they won a couple of state championships. How about Sabetti leaving the ground thinking he was going to dunk that basketball?
Well, he had all intentions.
He did. And I give Amir Sims credit for standing in there. And now we get to see some of the bench from Clemson come to the scorer's table. Isaac Fields is number 11. Lyles Davis, number 3. And so the only member of the Clemson roster not getting into the game is David Skara. He's the redshirt junior from Croatia who's a transfer from Valparaiso, but for unspecified violations while at Valpo, he's suspended for the first 9 games of the season. Brad Brownell getting Fields and Davis 24 seconds worth of playing time. And here is Davis. You got to shoot the basketball, young man. Junior from right here in Charleston. Give it to number 3 and let him shoot.
Well, the interesting part here will be Brad Brownell has probably instructed his team not to take a shot.
Like I said, give it to number 3 and let him shoot.
Well, good luck with that one. I believe he's going to go with his coach over you.
That's probably a wise decision. Brad Brownell's Clemson Tigers will play for the championship of the 2018 Gildan Charleston Classic. 78-60 our final score. And really, it was a run just before halftime that separated the Tigers from the Pride, and throughout the second half, they really were never able to make a push. We will talk to Coach Brownell when we come back to Charleston. Clemson wins its semifinal 78-60 to advance to the championship game on Sunday for their 49-year-old head coach, Brad Brownell, who, as we showed Wednesday night, enjoyed with his players a little bit of fun. Coach, why are they chasing you here?
Well, I'm running because Amir started getting closer. And he started dancing, and we were having a good time. And all of a sudden, he started getting closer. I'm like, I need my space, man. I don't know what you're getting ready to do. So but we had a good time. The guys treated me well.
Well, that was a nice bit of insight behind the scenes. You know, we're talking basketball X's and O's, but that's the relationship that you have with your players.
Well, I got a great group. I really enjoy this group. We took a trip to Spain, and we got a bunch of new guys. We really have 6 new players, and to be able to spend that kind of time together, the guys have really bonded well. My older guys, we have 5 experienced guys that, as you see, have played very well, but the young guys have brought some enthusiasm. It's just been a really fun group to coach.
And you mentioned those older guys that you have. How were you feeling when you guys took about 19 3-pointers in the first half? You didn't seem too happy at that time.
Well, we were getting a little three-point happy, and I don't mind our team shooting some because I believe in our shooters. I think guys can really shoot the basketball, and I want to play with confidence. But at the same time, yeah, we did have a couple talks there in the last time out, and then at halftime, certainly, that we need to go inside a little bit more.
Well, Dante Grantham certainly had an efficient night at the office tonight. He did a little bit of everything, as he seems to do quite often for you, Coach.
He's a very good player. I'm really proud of him, because he does so many things. He makes shots. He's rebounding at a high level this year, but his ball handling and passing are really high-level skills that a lot of guys his size don't have, and what make him a unique player.
In 2008, Clemson came here. They beat Hofstra along the way to facing Temple in the championship. Anything having to do with that? Are you suspicious or anything?
Nah, I'm not worried about that. Fran's got a really good team. I know they've played very well here at the tournament. Haven't got a chance to see much of them, but certainly have a talented group. Should be a great game.
What do you got planned for tomorrow? You got a day off before the big game on Sunday.
We never have a day off now. We'll be watching a lot of Temple film, trying to get our guys organized and get ready for that. But we'll go out for a nice meal for sure and try to enjoy this win a little bit in the morning.
And one of the things that it was always a question mark, who was your backup point guard? Marquise Reed seemed to take over the reins pretty well when Shelton got in foul trouble.
Yeah, we really don't worry about it too much because we do some things offensively where we don't have to have a pure point guard every possession. And we've got plenty of guys that can handle the ball, whether it's Marquise, whether it's Gabe, whether it's Clyde Trapp coming off the bench every once in a while, Dante Grantham. We can flip our offense and do some different things to not worry so much about who's the one guy dribbling it up the court every time.
Thanks so much, Coach. We appreciate you spending a couple of minutes, and congratulations on the win.
Thanks, guys.
Brad Brownell's Clemson Tigers with great balance. Marquise Reed among those reaching double figures again tonight, and so they have punched their ticket to the championship game against the Temple Owls tomorrow, or rather Sunday night. Tomorrow is a day off, at least for the announcers, coaches going right back to work. So glad you could join us. Our final once again, 78-59. Next on ESPNU, ESPN Films presents 24 Strong.